just a reminder, just because someone's famous and just because they purport to be good family men who would never do anything to bring pain upon their children does not mean that they are great guys. Which brings me to some breaking news, actually. I wish I could say it pains me to talk about this next story, but it really doesn't. The man formerly known as the most powerful host in cable news, Bill O'Reilly, is in trouble again. Two of my former colleagues, actually, who accused him previously of sexual harassment or misconduct, have now joined former O'Reilly producer Rachel Whitley Bernstein in a lawsuit against the disgraced host. Rebecca Gomez Diamond, who you might remember was Fox Business anchor, and Andrea Macris, who is a producer of falafel fame. If you don't know what I'm talking about, just Google it. They are the accusers who signed NDAs agreeing not to talk about their settlements. Let's talk about this, actually, what this means for O'Reilly and potentially the other women out there who have NDAs. Jeanne Christensen is a lawyer at Wigdor Law, and she also, by the way, represented me in my dealings with my departure from Fox, and she continues to do so. And she is on the line with us now from New York City. Hello, Ms. Christensen.
Hello. Thanks for having me on.
Are you freaking out now? I'm sure your blood pressure is just like out of out of control, wondering what I'm about to say.
I'm fine, actually.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. Over the past year, O'Reilly, as you know, has been on television shows and radio shows. He was even on his old frenemy Sean Hannity's show a few months back after being fired, talking about the accusations against him. He didn't name specific names, but we know who these women are because of reports in the New York Times and Washington Post and Yashar Ali and of the Huffington Post and all that business. O'Reilly's is essentially accusing his accusers of being liars, extortionists. He's even accused them of being complicit in some left-wing conspiracy. These three women, and perhaps other women in the future, are now going after O'Reilly for breach of contract. Do they have a case?
Well, I don't know that I can't speak to the specifics of these three individuals because I didn't work on their matters. But what I can say is based on the content of what Mr. O'Reilly has said, recently, including what he said to Matt Lauer on the Today Show and then subsequently on Hannity, he has come forth and specifically said that he has, quote, done nothing wrong in his 42-year career. He's also said that no complaints have ever been lodged against him for any wrongdoing.
I mean, Megyn Kelly came out specifically and said, I absolutely went to human resources, and I know other women have as well.
Correct. And so what he has done, though, is he has come forward and he has said, essentially, he has said that what I'm saying is true, and therefore what they're saying is a lie. And, depending on what agreements he entered into with these women, he is potentially disparaging them, placing them in a negative light, and otherwise, professionally damaging them by accusing them of making things up. And, as I said, depending on what he agreed to, this very well could be a basis for a breach of contract.
But I mean, the bottom line is you sign an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement, a confidentiality thing. Both sides are basically saying we're going to keep our mouths shut. And so, I mean, that's the whole point of it, is that so you don't go out later on one side or the other and start spouting off against the other side. That's the whole point of this non-disclosure. So I would imagine that, calling essentially these women liars is breaking that agreement.
Typically, a non-disclosure and a confidentiality non-disparagement agreement would go both ways, meaning both parties would be agreeing.
Yeah, why would you sign it if it only went one way?
Well, there are times when, for whatever reason, it's negotiated and it is only directed one way, or it's directed with a penalty only going one way. For instance, he could have agreed, but their contract could say that only the female victim has to pay money, for instance, if they breach.
Okay.
So we don't know what it says exactly, but
I bet we're about to find out.
A person who is not used to keeping his opinions to himself.
Yeah.
And clearly, after all these years of power, this is proving the biggest obstacle for him is to maintain his own silence.
Okay, let's kind of broaden this out. Fox News' complicity in all of this. They kept O'Reilly around for years, not only knowing that he had been accused time and time again of vile behavior, but paying to silence some of these women, not everyone, so that, theoretically that he could stay on air and keep making money for them because he was a powerhouse. They get rid of him in April, but only after his advertisers finally go berserk. Do these women go after Fox News now too? I mean, what is their culpability here at this point? And we find out, that there were clauses in his contract that protected him and essentially, as I think the Washington Post said, allowed him to sexually harass. I mean, when does Fox News, this monolith, and again, I mean, I used to work there, so I'm trying to keep this broad. When do they get in trouble for this? Because it seems like they're going on and everything is fine.
Well, so there's a couple things in what you said. First, as far as Fox's awareness, certainly in recent months, everybody knows what the level of awareness was at Fox. So if you just take the example of the Hannity show, which I believe was on September 26th, essentially Fox, you could argue, gave Bill O'Reilly a platform to reach over 3 million viewers and to say these things. Which
the whole thing was so weird because, I mean, when I worked there, I remember he and Hannity were constantly, I mean, they were constantly fighting with each other about, guests and all that business. So it was quite shocking to me, actually. I thought it was very interesting.
Well, maybe they wanted to reach as many viewers as possible, and so that's why they did that. I think that's a problem for them. I'm not sure he's been on any of their programs since then, actually. But I
think he was supposed to be on Fox Radio with Hannity, or whatever radio with Hannity. So maybe it's not Fox. I don't know. I don't know which radio stuff he does. But he was canceled, I believe. Not sure why.
Right. So certainly, I mean, regardless of what contract Fox had entered into with Mr. O'Reilly and these outrageous clauses in there, it's not up to Fox to give Bill O'Reilly a free pass to violate discrimination laws. I mean, no matter what they do, they can't. That wasn't up to them to make such an arrangement. Are these
women potentially going to be making a windfall?
That's a good question, fair question. Windfall, that's a big word. Again, it goes back to what's actually the language in their contract and whether they can, prove that there was a breach. And if so, then they're going to have damages.
All right, one more question. It's been said that we are experiencing a moment, a historical event wherein victims are not only speaking out, but they're breaking their legal agreements to speak out. Victims are saying, you know what, F it. This guy harassed me or assaulted me or this woman or whatever, and I'm not going to let them do it to anyone else. Screw the non-disclosure. Is this smart? Is this financial suicide? How are we seeing this? Because I know things seem to be moving in a different direction. Tamra Holder came out the other day, another accuser of somebody else at Fox. But she came out the other day and she was like, look, I know they're going to sue me. Perhaps not. Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see. But where do you think these women stand once they do something like this, especially the women who are dealing with Fox News?
Right. Well, so what happens is, anyone can breach a contract. What matters is what is the other non-breaching party going to do about it. So hypothetically, you could breach and speak out and nothing will happen to you because the other party decides not to take any legal action, in which case, you've said what you're going to say and that's it. Sometimes these contracts, though, have built-in provisions already that state that whoever breaches is liable to the other party, and sometimes for hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Right.
So that, makes it more likely that they could potentially be exposed to having to pay money back. But again, it's only if the other party decides to pursue it.
All right.
Otherwise, nothing will happen.
Jeanne Christensen, who I've gotten to know very well over the last year or so, I make this woman probably pull her hair out on a frequent basis, along with her guy there, Doug Wigdor at Wigdor Law. But they've been representing a lot of people who have a lot of legitimate cases and like to see this kind of stuff happening. Jeanne, always good to talk to you.
Thanks, Juliet.
All right,
Bye.
We'll be right back.